Hello ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction. Now, this is kind of late than I usually post. We'll see how this video do. Maybe I'll start posting at this timestamp. I don't know. It's experimental usually. But usually I don't post around this time. My videos are usually a few hours earlier than this. So I wasn't going to post this. But I've been waiting for this for a long time. Entire 24 hours. Yeah, so EA-18G finally made a video about how an F-35 got hit by Iranian missile in Operation Epic Fury. Because that is true. It's happened. After 2 weeks, entire Iran blew up. Apparently, they managed to shoot down an F-35, where the F-35 went and landed somewhere. That's the best you can get with an F-35, I guess. That is the closest thing to getting hit you can get with F-35. That's how untouchable United States is. But they did manage to do it, right? And as Pakistan did during the India war, total and complete victory, total vindication. We shot down Rafale, so we basically won. Don't worry about 20 or so, like sites, military sites that just blew up, and none of the Indian thing blew up. Ignore all that. That's what Iranian social media is going to do. Total and utter victory. All the non-Iranian as well, for some reason, who are pro-Iranian, not pro-Iranian, pro-IRGC and pro-Supreme Leader, who will just clap and look at that, America just lost because one F-35 somehow got damaged. That's what's going to happen. Not going to change anything. America's still going to be America. Shit's still going to blow up everywhere. But there you go. At least they have something to talk about. I don't understand social media. I don't understand how this means anything. That's sort of warfare goes. Damaging one aircraft doesn't even equate to anything. Even if you shoot down 5 aircraft, that still is nothing. You're not going to do nothing. But yes, we won in social media. Did anything change? Are your military sites not getting blown up? No, they're still getting blown up. That's the cloud. There's a mushroom cloud right there from big-ass bomb that was just dropped. But hey, at least we've won in social media because we can claim that. Let's voice one.
Managed to hit an American F-35 stealth fighter. Well, in modern warfare, there are primarily 2 kinds of anti-aircraft missiles: radar-guided and heat-seeking. The F-35 was designed to be practically invisible to long-range radar, but it wasn't built to completely hide from heat-seeking missiles. So how exactly—
No shit! That's why B-2 and B-21 has that Northrop Grumman's technology of dissipating heat outside the nozzle. So it can't even get targeted by that. Even then, if it's close enough, it can still get targeted by heat-seeking missile. This is impossible to avoid. So saying, oh, something failed, nothing failed, right? If you get close, anything can be targeted.
Did Iran missile manage to bypass the stealth technology of the US F-35? Well, the secret lies in a major vulnerability that is its heat signature. Its geometry and radar-absorbent materials make its radar cross-section incredibly small, essentially rendering it invisible to traditional early warning and targeting radars. To give you some context, this is how a plane's radar signature—
Wait a minute, camera's going crazy.
Compares to a bird's. But the F-35 is powered by a single Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine, one of the most powerful fighter engines in the world. The F-35 is heavily optimized to defeat radio frequency radar like the billion-dollar S-400 and S-300 missiles. However, stealth does not mean completely invisible. This engine produces a massive heat plume. Instead of using radar, modern air defense networks utilize infrared search and track systems. The answer is this short-range heat-seeking missile like this one. These passive sensors scan the skies for any heat anomalies. Because infrared search and track systems emit no energy themselves, the F-35's radar warning receivers would not alert the pilot that they were being painted by a target lock in the same way a radar lock would. But how did the missile lock, and how did the F-35 use evasive maneuvers? Once an infrared-guided missile is launched, the dynamic of the engagement changes to a race of physics and countermeasures. When the missile's IR seeker head locks onto the massive thermal output of the F-35's engine exhaust. But the detection, the F-35 is equipped with a distributed aperture system, 6 infrared cameras positioned around the aircraft that provide a 360-degree spherical view. The distributed aperture system detects the intense heat signature of the incoming missile's rocket motor and instantly alerts the pilot. To break the lock, the pilot executes high-G evasive maneuvers while
I mean, what about the flare? Flare, I don't know, whatever that thing, right? Like there's chavs or whatever it's called. You shoot from the behind because this is heat seeking. And those things are very good at evading that. They literally is brighter than the exhaust fumes of the plane, as far as I know. If you launch them, missiles will literally hit that. Right? So even though no amount of complicated technology can avoid this, those flares can, right? From the behind. Those things can because they're literally heat. I'm guessing F-35 was out of that because multiple times this should happen during that flight.
simultaneously deploying flares.
Flares, yes.
If the missile tracks the flares but is already within a lethal radius, its proximity fuse will trigger the warhead. The resulting shrapnel and shockwave can cause significant damage to the aircraft's control surfaces, stealth coating, or internal systems without scoring a catastrophic direct hit, which perfectly aligns with reports of the F-35.
So it didn't hit it. It did not hit it. It hit close by, flares did work, and plane landed. This should not be counted as Iranian missile hitting F-35.
Sustaining damage but safely executing an emergency landing. But what are flares? These pyrotechnic countermeasures are made of magnesium or other combustible metals that burn at temperatures exceeding the aircraft's engine heat. The goal of the flares is to overwhelm or confuse the missile's IR seeker, forcing it to chase the decoy heat sources instead of the jet. But what is Iran's secret weapon? We believe it's the 358 anti-aircraft missile or the SA-67. The 358 is a unique hybrid between a loitering munition or kamikaze drone and a surface-to-air missile. But how does it work? It flies at slower subsonic speeds and can loiter in a designated airspace in a figure-8 pattern until its optical and infrared sensors.
Why couldn't F-35 just put out afterburners and go beyond Mach 1? It can do that. It's a stealth flight, so it choose not to, but it can do the afterburner and go higher speed. Wouldn't it be just better to just like outrun it?
Detect a target. If a 385 missile or a more advanced high-speed indigenous IR-guided surface-to-air missile was guided by a ground-based IRST network, it could engage the F-35 entirely within the infrared spectrum, bypassing the jet's radar-evading capabilities entirely. This incident challenges the long-held doctrine that fifth-generation fighters can operate with
What the fuck?
advanced high-speed indigenous designated. If a 385 missile or a more advanced high-speed indigenous IR-guided surface-to-air missile was guided by a ground-based IRST network, it could engage the F-35 entirely within the infrared spectrum, bypassing the jet's radar-evading capabilities entirely.
I didn't know that was a real threat. Interesting.
This incident challenges the long-held doctrine that fifth-generation fighters can operate with total impunity in contested airspace, highlighting the evolving threat of infrared detection.
Dude, that was never a case. No militaries ever thought like, yeah, this is untouchable. This is literally completely dark, so we can just like do anything we want. No military ever does that. You know is like very capable fighter, but you still know that like this is not complete air dominance. You need to be like do operation in a way that you clear certain fields, suppressing fire, bombing certain areas, and then choose a path that is safe enough to go through, and then 5th gen comes into play. That maybe if we get targeted, and 5th gen will be fine. No military is like, it doesn't matter, just like jam it in. It's F-35, so nobody can touch it. That no equipment is like that.
But it has its advantages as it cannot hit fighter jets far from its radius of launch system. During Operation Fury, the U.S. has been using F-35s to lead strikes and declared air superiority to hunt for surface-to-air missile and suppress air defenses. Although the U.S. has achieved near-total air superiority, but the war is just entering its most dangerous stage. But here is the problem: Iran is still not out of the fight. If the U.S. owns the sky, why not just send in standard fighters? Because while Iran's main network is shattered, isolated surface-to-air batteries like the S-300 are still hiding in the shadows. For an F-15 E-Strike Eagle, the legendary bomb truck of the Air Force, one lucky radar lock from a rogue missile is a death sentence. And in a high-stakes conflict, losing a crew and a multi-million-dollar jet to a surviving battery is a risk the Pentagon simply won't take. But how did the US and Israel manage to use F-35 jets to strike Iran while Iranian
Dude, USA already burned down multi-billion, 8 billion in just weeks, just trying to fight Iran. It's not just about losing a plane, which is, yes, costly, but comparatively not that much. It's about losing a soldier and the global stigma of America taking damage. America is not fighting Russia, China, or some top players like any major power in Europe. It's Iran. Iran is dangerous, but not the top 10 military. This will basically like, oh, look at that, Iran managed to attack USA. Russia will just claim, look at that. USA is paper tiger as well, just because of some small shit here and there. They can't have this kind of publicity, especially if they're trying to send message to China, like fighting us would not be a good idea.
air defenses were still up and running? To make this happen, they didn't just rely on local land bases. They brought 2 massive floating cities right to Iran's doorstep.
Larger than India.
Down in the Arabian Sea, you've got the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group bearing down on the south and east. And over in the eastern Mediterranean, the biggest, newest ship, USS Gerald R. Ford. While Israeli jets flew all the way across the Middle East to reach Iranian airspace, timing was absolutely critical. The moment those IDF jets reached their marks, the missiles were released. And that brings us to the most terrifying, complicated part of this entire operation, the synchronization. Military planners rely on a tactic called time on target. Look at this map. You have missiles firing from submarines, cruise missiles launching from escort ships, and massive payload drops from stealth bombers. They are all deploying from completely different locations at entirely different times. But here is the genius of it. The US military machine was mathematically choreographed so everything impacted Karaj, Tehran, Qom, Kermanshah, and Isfahan at the exact same second the Israeli jets dropped their guided bombs. It was designed to be a total systemic shock and explodes at the same time. A move to collapse the regime instantly. When those munitions finally hit, it was pure shock and awe. But why did the Iranian air defenses fail to activate? Well, to put it simply, the US military operates in a completely different league. Using a highly advanced mix of electronic warfare and cyber operations, coordinated from space to the ground, the coalition was able to inject false data directly into Iranian radar screens. Top-tier Iranian air defense systems, like their homegrown Baver and their Russian-supplied batteries, were absolutely overwhelmed by this electronic assault. But to actually hunt them down, the US set a brilliant trap. They launched hundreds of ABM-160 MALDs, miniature air-launched decoys. To a panicked Iranian radar operator staring at a chaotic screen, these tiny drones look exactly like a massive squadron of F-15s or F-16s screaming toward the capital. With the door kicked wide open, 5th-generation stealth fighters, including both US and Israeli F-35s with possible F-22 Raptors, sliced through the airspace completely undetected. Ultimately, the Iranian air defense network wasn't just suppressed, it was completely dismantled.
I'm going to give you this. If F-22 was there, I don't think it would have gotten hit. Since it is twin-engine plane with the insanely high speed after, like shooting afterburners, it would have done that instantly. And shoot the... I don't think F-22 is very maneuverable, like it's air dominance plane. I think it would have avoided this strike. Again, could have, would have, but that's what I think.
At least for the time period. Because the Iranian do have a huge firepower. Tehran has fired back. In Operation Truthful Promise 4, a massive wave of missiles and drones just targeted US bases in Israel. Here's the fallout. The UAE's Al Dhafar air base was hit, leaving one dead from shrapnel. In Bahrain, the US Navy's 5th Fleet HQ was directly targeted. Qatar's air defenses successfully wiped out incoming missiles, while Kuwait locked down its entire airspace under heavy fire. Meanwhile, nationwide sirens are blasting across Israel, with massive mid-air interceptions lighting up the skies over Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. If you don't want your phone and emails to get compromised like that, you should get this military-grade VPN.
Sure, Sark. Yeah, go to original YouTube page and from there support this channel. Short Star VPN fights the oppressive regime. Stops like, no, not like that, don't say it like that.
Money back guarantee. But how did Israel manage to fly all the way to Iran? At 9 in the morning, Israel launched more than a dozen aircraft, but it's a complicated process. They have to navigate or entirely bypass the airspace of neighboring countries like Syria and Iraq. To avoid hostile air defenses, defense analysts estimate the actual flight distance to reach central Iran is between 930 and 1,240 miles each way. Although these routes may seem straightforward, they involve complex planning, including calculations for air refueling and coordinating attack aircraft to pass through Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. Israel and U.S. strategy was to attack Iran in 3 waves. The first wave targeted surface air-to-air sites, radar installations, and Iran's air defense headquarters in Tehran, Elam, and Khuzestan. The second wave focused on destroying ballistic missiles, and finally, the third wave targeted military manufacturing industries. Kicking down the door. The attack begins not with manned aircraft, but with robotic precision from the sea. The goal is simple: blind the enemy's eyes, their radars, and silence their voice, their command and control. In the Persian Gulf and the Northern Arabian Sea, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, ships like the USS Thomas Hudner, receive the launch order. The vertical launch system cells hiss open, and moments later, dozens of Tomahawk land attack missiles erupt from the decks. These missiles fly at subsonic speeds, hugging the terrain in what we call nap-of-the-earth flight to stay below the radar horizon. They are programmed to loiter and strike simultaneously. Their warheads slam into S-300 and S-400 radar sites and command bunkers. They degrade the integrated air defense system, effectively carving out safe corridors for the pilots who are minutes behind them. 30 minutes past each hour, while the Tomahawks are still impacting, the silver bullets of the U.S. Air Force are already deep inside hostile airspace. These are the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. With the air defense network fractured by Tomahawk cruise missiles, usually fired from destroyers hundreds of miles away, the path is now clear. Now comes the strategic sites like nuclear bunkers, which can be bombed by B-2 Spirit, the tip of the spear. Launching from bases in Jordan and the UAE, squadrons of F-15 E-Strike Eagles roar into the theater. These are the bomb trucks of the operation.
Yeah.
Each F-15 is heavily laden with GDMs and small-diameter bombs. Interestingly, it can carry up to 19 GDAMs or 28 small-diameter weapons. While the B-2s hit the deep bunkers, the F-15s hunt the mobile target.
Yeah, planes like F-15 and F-22 basically is like comes in, blows shit up and runs away because they're twin-engine high-speed jets. You will not hear about them getting attacked. F-35, F-16 is basically some old equivalent. Loiter around, do their thing, do certain operations. So it makes sense why you hear the news of F-35 was targeted, F-35 nearly got hit. Nearly, because you didn't really hit F-35. It still landed. But yeah.
Their ADSA radars scan the ground for ballistic missile launchers hiding in valleys. Working in pairs, they drop precision bombs on missile convoys, hangars, and secondary command nodes. Once they are Winchester, out of ammo, or low on fuel, they don't go home yet. They connect to this tanker common launch tube that fits into almost any aircraft's existing fuel hatch. They retreat to those tanker tracks established in Phase 1, taking on thousands of pounds of jet fuel in midair before turning back for a second sortie.
This is a risky thing to me. Like early times it makes sense, but they will, like change strategy now. I mean, maybe not Iran, but who knows? Like they could realize like they do this. After operation, they will flock to a near tanker. And tanker is not going to be stealthy, even remotely close. So they could like let America bomb them and literally wait for specific moment like this and just use all the technology they have to target it. Even if they don't have technology, they can get some technology from Russia or China just to have this one strike. Just so they can say like we attacked America and like that has some psychological effect. This feels like a hole in the plot armor, right? I don't know, man. America should do certain thing like you don't need refuelers, like launch from like Lincoln or something, so you can have like one tanker operation or land somewhere else like UAE or Qatar or something.
2 hours pass each hour. To sustain the pressure, the U.S. Navy's floating air bases enter the fight. Cruising in the Arabian Sea, a carrier strike group turns into the wind. Steam and electromagnetic catapults begin launching aircraft every 30 seconds. F-A-18 Super Hornets launch carrying anti-radiation missiles. Their job is DAD, destruction of enemy air defenses. They are hunting down any surviving radar operators foolish enough to turn their systems on. Meanwhile, F-35 Sea Lightning push forward to gather intelligence and strike high-threat targets that the older jets cannot reach. Orbiting far behind them are the E-2D Hawkeyes, the quarterbacks in the sky, managing the massive traffic of hundreds of U.S. jets. By sunrise, the first wave is over. The eyes of the enemy air defense have been blinded by Tomahawks. The heart of the nuclear program has been crushed by B-2s, and the limbs of the missile forces have been severed by F-15 and carrier aircraft. We make original videos from scratch.
I didn't get the later half of the video. Yeah, we kind of knew that. Although it was going to tie back to F-35 somehow. Yeah, all right. So F-35 nearly got hit. Not really got hit because of proximity fuses that any military in the world has. It's very common now. So even if you get close enough, that's a danger. F-35 got damaged. There are way too many F-35 in the world. This was bound to happen sometimes, especially after 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's 21st day now, right? 3 weeks of operation. This was bound to happen, right? So yeah, it just makes sense. But it landed. So did you really hit it? The Tom shoot it down did not happen here. You did not shoot it down. It landed. All right, well, if you like my next one, subscribe and I'll see you next time.